Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sabine Hutchison, and today we are going to be discussing a topic that has long been underserved and misunderstood. And I think finally what we're seeing is that it's getting the attention that it deserves, and that's menopause. Thank goodness we're talking about this more and more openly. It's a phase of life that all women are going to experience, and we want to make sure that we address this topic and the importance of this topic. But let's also be honest, we're starting to see some of the eye rolls. I don't know if you ladies have seen this as well, but it's like, oh, here we go with this topic again. But, the reality is that menopause and perimenopause affect over half of the population, and it will directly or indirectly touch everyone. And we definitely see that the stakes are high for health, for mental well-being, and careers and identity. And the system still isn't set up to completely support women through it. And so that's why I'm thrilled that both of you are here today and that I'm joined by these two incredible women who are really leading change in this space through tech and through community and having some very courageous conversations. So Anne Broché of Uma Health and Victoria Finlay of MenoPal. They are really reimagining what support can look like for women and how to navigate menopause today. So, it was interesting. I had the idea to bring both of you on the show. I knew both of you independently and definitely want to push that women supporting women. And I thought that each of the tools, what you're setting up and the technology that you're using is different and could potentially be complementary to each other. And when I approached each of you, you both said yes. And so I'd really like to maybe we just start with that. Anne and Victoria, maybe we start with you, Anne. Why did you agree to come onto the podcast today?
Yeah, well, always nice to being in your podcast and your discussions with that, because I think that you're always bringing the right people together and empowering. But it was very nice to indeed be in this podcast with Victoria, because we're both tackling an underserved domain, being the perimenopause menopause, and we both work on solutions that help women in this phase. And I think that getting to know each other is really important, understanding what is out there in the market, and the space to support women in perimenopause is so large that it's important to to join forces and to really make the 1+1 is 3.
Victoria, what about you? Thanks,
Yeah,
Anne.
look, I love collaborations. I love working with people. I think there's plenty of space out there for everybody. And when women come together, we can do magical things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to have some magical conversations today. So, really looking forward to that. One of the things that we talked about when we were thinking about how to put the concept for this session together is a bit of myth busting. Let's see if I can speak today. And I'll share some information. You both are, of course, the experts, but thought it would really be good to define menopause and perimenopause briefly. So, as we said, menopause is natural. It's a biological phase, and it marks the end of a woman's menstrual cycle. And it's officially diagnosed after 12 consecutive months without having your period. It typically happens between the ages of 45 and 55. I'm a good example. I totally am out of that range, way over. And it can happen earlier or later, as we all know individuals that have experienced either earlier or later. And then we have this transition, and it doesn't happen overnight. And that's where perimenopause comes into play. It's the years leading up to menopause when the hormones begin to fluctuate. And during this time, women may experience just a huge, wide range of symptoms: irregular periods, hot flashes, some of the things that we hear fairly often about: brain fog, mood changes, and anxiety and sleep issues. And oftentimes, I think that they don't even realize it. Also, although we're having these conversations about that this is a shift in their hormones. And it's important to note that menopause is not a disease. So let's just clear that up right now. It's natural, and it's a part of our evolution as women. And there still is a lack of awareness and support and medical training, which we've talked about as well. And we really want to bust some myths. So, Victoria, why don't you share a couple of myths that you think need to be busted on this topic?
Oh, there are so many, but I think I'll start with that. You have to be old and wrinkly and decrepit to be menopausal. Perimenopause, as you said, is that 10 years before your periods actually stop. And what it means is that your hormones are like a roller coaster. They're going up and down, and that can be daily. So you can be 35, 36. You can be trying to conceive. You can be freezing your eggs to be pregnant, but you can be perimenopausal. So the two of those things can exist at the same time. And it's all to do with symptoms. I think another myth is that, our mothers and our grandmothers may have said, oh, I was fine. Nothing, happened to me. I'm absolutely fine. Okay, maybe they were fine. And, for some women, they feel okay, they get through it. But we do need to look at the other things like our heart health, our bones, and
Mm,
our brain. So the myth
right.
being that, oh, you can just get through it, tough it out. That is a myth because actually we need hormones to have longer, healthier lives.
Absolutely.
I can go on with myths, but maybe we'll give it a chance to come in.
Let's see if Anne throws in a couple of different ones
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
complement your myths.
I think one thing that I hear often is that women think this goes away. It's like menopause is a thing that happens to you and all of a sudden it's gone. And the fact that your estrogen, your sex hormones drop and at a certain point are not existing anymore have an impact on the rest of your life in the sense that it estrogen serves so many biological processes in the body, in the brain, in the joints, in the blood vessels. And so taking these away have a long-term impact have a long-term impact on women's health. So that's, I think, one that I also hear a lot. It's like it's a short period of time that you have to go through. And it is true, there's a difference between that perimenopause where hormones are fluctuating and giving you all kinds of different symptoms, whereas the symptoms might become different, less existing, but the impact of the lack of estrogen, for example, is there until you die. Yeah.
It's interesting too because I've heard, I don't know if you have the same that I've heard from women that say, "Oh, my doctor said it doesn't make any sense to test any hormone levels because they're different every day. And so, we really can't get to the core of this."
Well, that's why it's based on symptoms once you're over 45. So once you hit 45, it's pointless doing a blood test unless you're going to do one every single day for 30 days and then look at it. Um, it's all about the symptoms. And that's another myth, I think, that when people hear about menopause, they think, oh, hot flushes. If I'm not having a hot flush, I couldn't be perimenopausal. But actually, there's, in the MenoPal, we have over 60 symptoms. And there are more, but we said we'd start with these core symptoms. One of the biggest symptoms that people get is actually weight gain. And their body starts to change. And those extra, pounds or kilos are piled on, usually around the midsection. It happened to me. Yeah, our bodies start changing. We're eating healthily, we're not drinking as much because we can't metabolize it. We're making the effort, but yet our bodies are changing. And another big symptom is anxiety. So, we're going along, we're fine, like we're killing in our careers. We're saying, okay, the kids are a bit older. We're able to, get really into things. And then this crippling anxiety comes out of nowhere. It affects people, waking you up during the night. You're driving, you're having, almost having a panic attack. All of these things are driven by hormones.
Yep, so true. And maybe let's take a step back and look at each, because each of you offers just a bit of a difference. So we have the MenoPal and Uma Health. Maybe why don't we start with that? Because I'm just diving right into the topic, and I think it would be interesting to understand the differences and what you offer in each of your solutions and your technologies. And maybe do you want to start with what
Yeah,
you
yeah,
offer?
yeah, absolutely. Yuma is a digital platform that provides women with access to information care, and that can be doctors, gynecologists, as well as menopause consultants or lifestyle coaches, as well as, and that is in a later stage, products. Now we provide products to healthcare providers, but it will be possible to purchase also solutions that have to do, for example, with vaginal dryness or supplements. So it's like a one-stop shop, one place where you can find everything that you need in perimenopause or menopause. And currently with a lot of focus on doing consultations for women that don't find access with their own healthcare providers, GPs, gynecologists, and so on. So that is currently the biggest focus.
So you have physicians that individuals can speak to. Can they write prescriptions as well?
So prescriptions are valid in the European in Europe. So we provide digital prescriptions that women offer the opportunity to get their medication or whatever they need, bioidentical hormones or.
Yeah, that's interesting. So are people open to that? Because that's quite you log on, you speak to someone online, and all of a sudden you get a prescription. How is the engagement or the reaction
Yeah,
to that?
yeah. I love the question because that was also the initial idea. So the company has started from my own frustration where like no one was willing to help me. And I was like, we're 2023. This is just insane that we can't help women in perimenopause or menopause. So we've built an initial platform to really create that experiment. I don't want to have this negative connotation, but it was a validation. Can we validate that women are willing to come to a digital environment to have a consultation with an expert in menopause and are willing to pay for that? And so that was what we launched on November 8th last year. And yeah, to share some numbers, and over the last 8.5 months, we have done over 1,200 consultations. So to tell you that there is a real need, there's a real gap in our current healthcare system. And what was even more eye-opening is that of these women booking a consultation, that over 50% books a long-term care track. So meaning that they stay with us for 3 or 6 months with intermediate appointments to really get that follow-up. Like, hey, this is just not a quick fix. Menopause, perimenopause needs attention, needs these little adjustments to find a good way of, for example, building up bioidentical hormones, or to find a lifestyle adjustments that can help you find relief in symptoms. So that was an important eye opener, and that probably gives you some idea of, are women okay with coming to that digital environment? And it seems that if you get the care that you're looking for, women tend to adopt these new ways of healthcare quite easily. Yeah.
Interesting. And Victoria, tell us about MenoPal, because it's a bit of a different approach, right?
Yeah. So it's the MenoPal. Okay.
MenoPal, excuse
Yeah.
me,
Okay. And it's like the Godfather, MenoPal.
like the MenoPal.
Exactly. Okay. So I suppose the MenoPal is your smart companion that you can have in your pocket, and it has all of the information that you need. You can ask the MenoPal anything. You can say, is this normal? Why am I bleeding so much? Why have I got that pain in my shoulder? What should I ask my doctor? What's a high protein breakfast? What
Mm,
exercise should I be doing to keep my muscles strong and healthy? But what happens is then it will also generate a report for your doctor. So this will give all of this information, and then we're using smart technology, we're using AI to really synthesize that information for you as a user, and it will come back with personalized reports and result driven information so that you can live the longest, healthier life. So that is essentially what the MenoPal is to the user. But for the likes of, say, Anne's Clinic, we have an infrastructure as well. So we provide menopause clinics, doctors, any of these people who, are in women's health. We provide them with an infrastructure so that they can actually log in, they can have the data from their with consent. Privacy is number one
mm-hmm.
always. but they can have that information. They can have a dashboard around it, around their patients as well. We provide GP tools. So the GPs who are not educated enough in menopause, unfortunately, look, not everyone can afford an expensive menopause clinic, okay? But then, sometimes women have no choice. They'll put money aside, they'll save. But the most important thing is efficiencies, because what's happening is women try and go to their doctor and they're told, oh no, I don't know anything about this. I don't have the information in front of me. So a woman needs to be able to have the information before she goes about what to ask. And then I suppose the doctors or the GPs need to have access to digital decision trees to be able to actually make that, make the call on what's the best treatment plan for this woman. So I suppose the MenoPal, yes, it's a lifetime. So it's not just from peri-menopause to menopause. It's really beyond that as well, because it's going to be with you for a long time. Because as I mentioned, women are living longer lives, but it's the longer, healthier lives. And it's to preempt the heart disease, because estrogen protects our heart. And when it leaves our bodies, women are much more likely to get a heart attack after the age of 50. 1 in 2 women will get osteoporosis if we don't actually do this, make the changes. So I suppose in summary, I'd say the MenoPal is your smart, sassy friend in your pocket. Sometimes if I to say what she was like, she's a bit of a Samantha from Sex and the City, bit of Sinead O'Connor, and a bit of Dolly Parton in there as well.
Ah,
Just
that's a
to
nice combo.
help you along in your
Yeah,
life.
to give her personality. So theoretically, or maybe not even theoretically, women could use the report, for instance, that they could get with a MenoPal,
Yeah,
and then make an appointment with a physician or
that's
a
exactly it.
provider at Ann's.
Absolutely. Exactly. So we could have
Mm,
List Anne's clinic on the MenoPal, and then women
mm,
from all over the world that use the MenoPal could actually go through Anne's clinic. So from anywhere in
mm.
Europe, from Ireland, like HRT is free in Ireland.
Right. That's amazing. That is new, isn't it? I
Yes.
was just at a
Yes.
conference last couple of months ago, and I was there actually the day that that became,
Shout out to our
official. It's
amazing Minister
incredible.
for Health,
Yeah.
Jennifer, who
Yeah.
has worked tirelessly to get this through. So not only it's completely free, we don't even have to pay the fees from the chemist when it's being dispatched. So it is totally, totally free for women, which is just amazing. So,
Incredible.
and that's why I suppose I'm not sure about the technicalities of this, Anne, but could an Irish woman go to your clinic, have their online consultation, and then you send it to the pharmacy here in Ireland, and then it's free. So yeah.
Yeah. There we go. Collaboration in the making. I love it. Well, and I also want to get maybe a bit to the core of why you both started in this space, and why you set up your companies. That they're both very personal stories, I think, and yeah, I think that's a lot of this. A lot of entrepreneurs have a reason why they decided to move in that direction. I'd love to hear your stories, and if you want to start.
I already have given a little glimpse into what has brought me, but I've worked from most of my career in medical devices companies, such as Intuitive Surgical, known for its robotic surgery, and in Roche Diabetes Care. And, I've seen highly innovative solutions. I've seen cardiac surgery through little incisions with a robot. So I've seen crazy stuff. When at a certain point in life, at 46, almost really on my birthday, I felt like, oh, something is not okay. I feel I've joint pain. I have tender breasts, and I didn't know at all what was happening. And you have to know that I have a paramedical background. And honestly, I didn't know what was happening. I did a pregnancy test, and now I'm laughing with it. But at that point, it was like me thinking that I got pregnant while the opposite was happening. So that was one thing where I was missing a lot of knowledge. And then the second thing is, once I started realizing, because I went on Dr. Google to look what was happening, my GP said like, hey, Anne, that's part of life. You're a top cookie. You'll get through this. And I was like, oh, okay, but I was like at work, I'm not feeling well. I have the impression that I'm not performing anymore as I should be. And then my gynecologist said, yeah, this is probably peri-menopause. I was like, oh, finally someone that admits. And she said, but we're not going to do anything about it. I was like, wait a second. And she said, no, hormones are very, very dangerous. We need to keep away from. And this was a gynecologist of 40, 45. And I was like, okay. And then I realized,
That's concerning.
that's concerning indeed, because I was like, okay, so we're saying that a woman of 46 cannot be helped in 2023 to deal with hormonal fluctuation and the fact of not performing at work, not feeling well at home, not be willing to do any sports anymore. And I was like, okay, I cannot accept this. And so that drove me into looking for the right partners. And that is a doctor, one of my co-founders, Dr. de Klerk, and then my other co-founder who was keen or was a very skilled in go-to-market services strategy. That was the word I was looking for. And so we joined forces and we've kicked off Yuma to really find that or define a place where women can be heard, can be understood, and can also find the support they need to continue life as it should be around this age.
Yeah, interesting. I want to hear from Victoria first, but I want to go back to this concept that the hormones are bad and the study. So maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Victoria, maybe you'll share your story.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, personal experience brought me to this. I suppose I'm 47 now, and when I was 44, my periods became really, really irregular. So, like, I always would have thought that, oh, menopause means your periods are going to go less. Mine became more. So it started off, I was having heavy periods. Then they were coming every 2 weeks. Then they were lasting for about, 2, 3 weeks. And then it came to a point where they started at the beginning of November and I bled all the way through to January. Now, look, it was Christmas and I was like, oh, I'll go to the doctor. It's like, oh, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I became anemic. I was like really, really unwell. I was having loads of other symptoms like rage episodes and being really like absent-minded, forgetting words, just so many different things. Another thing, shoulder pain and hip pain. So like a pain here, like just unbelievable. So it wasn't that I wasn't going to doctors. I was going to my doctor. I went to a gynae who told me, a private clinic. Oh, you just need to have your womb taken out, a hysterectomy. I was like, oh my God, I cried when I came out. And I went back to my own doctor and she said, no, look, you don't. She said, you really don't. And nobody said to me this could be perimenopause. So again, I went online and I found an amazing Irish Facebook community called the Irish Menopause. And I saw thousands of other women who were going through exactly the same thing that I was going through. And again, that's replicated all around the world. So then I was like, jigsaw pieces, putting them together. And I went back to my doctor with this information and they said, oh, 44, you're a little bit young, your bloods are fine. Let's check your thyroid. How about a painkiller? What about antidepressants? I was like, no, I don't need any of this. Again, I'm an entrepreneur by spirit. I've just always kind of like had my own businesses. I had a fashion distribution company for 15 years. We took brands from outside Europe and distributed them all around Europe. We did amazing trade shows and sold e-com and grew brands to like millions in revenue, direct consumer growth marketing, worked with pharmacies, brought the Diva Cup to Europe, did all of these amazing things. But actually, the system was failing me. So I was like, I need to make a solution around this. I need to build something so that my daughters and actually my friends don't need to go through this. So that's what brought me to really sitting down and putting my business mind to it and putting the team together around it. And, it's taken a year and a half. I suppose I did an accelerator program in Dublin there last year called New Frontiers. And that was a 6 months full time. Really, really, you sit down and you go through your research and your product market fit and you get connected with people. So I really leaned into that and went deep on it. And now we're launching in a couple of weeks. So it's kind of come full circle around here now. So I just can't wait to
How
get it out there
exciting.
and to help women. So we, will sell in the app store, but we're also selling to corporates, which is so,
Mm,
so important for employers to support the women that work for them. 1 in 10 women actually leave their job because of
yeah,
menopause. It's a shocking statistic. And I suppose for every single woman that you support, the ramifications and the ripple effect, to steal your words, Sabina, for that are just enormous.
they are
So if,
enormous.
if there's anyone listening to this who does want to support their employees or, would like it to get in their job, please reach out to me because it's just so, so important. But actually, for every corporate license that we sell, we are giving one away for free to women who can't afford it, to women who really, really need it. We're working with doctors, nurse practitioners, and charities in women's health to make sure that this reaches the people that need it.
Yeah, I think that that is so key, and that's why these conversations are so important. You know, both of you shared stories where the physicians that you were seeing, you didn't feel, I don't think, very validated or heard. We hear that more often, and I don't want to totally focus and, have this negative image of all physicians, but I think that there is definitely something lacking there. It's taken me years, and I've just found a gynecologist who's fabulous, and really I'm having now really great conversations with her. Initially, I met with a practitioner in the UK who wrote me my first scripts. I couldn't when I went to my doctors here in Germany. There was just no support. So there's something in this system that just isn't working right, which I think that we also need, to evaluate. So have these conversations, but how can we impact the system and the medical training that's happening? I think as well is really important. And do you have any insights on that, or any
Yeah, yeah.
conversations that you're having around that?
Every single day. And that is, I suppose, look, it's not the doctor's fault that they haven't been given the information and they may not have the time to do the extra training around it. Okay. So, look, it is expensive to go to specialist menopause clinics. Absolutely a place for them because they know their stuff inside out as well. But again, not everybody can afford that. And sometimes women just need to go to their doctor. Some women might have, a medical card or go on the NHS system or whatever. So that's why we're building out the GP tools that they can securely use to get that information and just use it as an online tool, just to digitalize those tools as well, because it's really not their fault that they don't have the information. They only have 10 minutes with you. So again, it's not their fault, but it's the system is failing women. It really, really is failing women.
And what's your experience with that with the physicians? How was it finding the ones to work with you?
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And I have a co-founder who is a doctor, and I said like, "Hey, what's your menopause?" And he said like, "Man, it's almost not existing. It's like this little part in my seven." He started even off as a surgeon, and he said like, actually, before you spoke to me, I had heard a couple of sentences about menopause, and that's it in my whole medical training. So, and we hear that a lot is that certain GPs start to refer to us. They say, because I'm not against women starting a treatment with bioidentical hormones, for example, but I don't feel comfortable. I'd love to have someone who is really well trained in it and then reports back to me, and the woman does well. That's the most important. So you see that doctors are not confident, and you have the ones that you refer to specialists, and then you have the others that are like, "Oh, I don't know a lot about it, so I'll say no to the woman." So you see, you have these two options. We have to say that we have I see in the Belgian market more and more doctors that start to show an interest in. We have both gynecologists as well as lifestyle doctors that have started to get interested, that take extra courses, for example, with Louisa Newson or with other schools to get more trained into the hormonal health of women. And these are our doctors that we got in touch with and that said, like, yeah, this is an initiative that we're willing to support, because in Yuma, we can see a lot of women in a digital environment where we have the tools, we have a platform that supports doctors to give them the care they need. Yeah.
Why do you think women are so nervous about hormones?
Mm. Is it the
Well,
women or is it the doctors?
Or is it the doctors? That's a good
yeah,
question.
yeah, I think it's both.
Where is that?
Yeah. I think it's both really. I think we referenced the whole thing around breast cancer, okay, about the study that was done that was, found to be flawed. So there's the myths and the misconceptions around that part of it. And then there's anecdotal stuff as well. Really from my experience, talking to thousands of women, it's actually not breast cancer that most people are afraid of. It's usually weight gain. And, there's these kind of, if your HRT is not fully balanced, it, I suppose, could cause weight gain like anything. But when it's balanced, it's not supposed to cause any at all. So I think there's the fear of the unknown as well. And until you actually try it and see is it for you, the benefits are absolutely huge for that preventative and protective health, that I suppose we will see, it'll take a couple of years with the MenoPal as well. But, there's a shocking statistic that only 1% of female health data outside oncology is actually on female health. So that, the rest of it, like female health products were tested on men. So that with the MenoPal, with this, anonymized, completely anonymized, like everybody's information is stored locally on their phone. We wouldn't have access to, I wouldn't know that Anne was on it or Sabina was on it. Basically, all of that information over time, those longitudinal data studies will show what's good, what's bad, what affects people. And we're also bringing in a GLP-1 tracker, because again, GLP-1s are, so big now as well to help people with weight loss and sustainable kind of weight loss as well, that there's going to be huge kind of correlations and connections around using GLP-1s with HRT and as we get older as well.
And when we spoke, probably sometime, I think it was last year, right? When I was interviewing for the book, you shared some statistics also around this particular study. And it's interesting because my mother even refers to this study. And it's somehow so embedded in this history and in the HRT history. Could you share some information around that, around the study and the kind of the flaws and how it works?
Yeah, sure. And Victoria, please step in, because I only might have or share parts where my mind is taken to. But the study that you're referring to is the Women's Health Initiative that was done in 2002, and the whole setup of the study was to validate if HRT could be helpful in cardiovascular disease. So that was the upset. And what happened is that at that point, and that is one of the largest studies done on hormonal therapy and menopause, is that women got estrogen and progesterone. But an important thing that I want to mention now is that these products don't compare at all to what we're using today. So you have to know that the estrogen came from the urine of pregnant horse mares. We say
Mares? I
yeah,
think it's
like female
mares.
horses. I don't know
Yeah.
the word. It mares
Yeah.
in English.
Mares.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
and
that's
they
the
were
word. Yeah.
taken orally. So it was another way of administering it. It went through the liver, and it was also hormones that were synthetic, or that were at least not bioidentical. Same thing for the estrogen. The progesterone was also a synthetic. So there was this like product that we're now comparing it with what could happen. And so the inclusion of the women was quite, so the age where women got included was 65. Whereas today we're administering, or our doctors are administering it to women between 45, 50, so a lot younger. And so there has been this inclusion criteria. There has been like an anxiety about an increase in breast cancer. Whereas they're looking back now, it wasn't really statistically significant that there was an increase in breast cancer. The only thing that they found is an increase in cardiovascular risks. And it's of course important, but there has been like taken conclusions, and the next day, millions of women have stopped taking HRT. And so it has had an important impact on how women and healthcare providers have been looking at HRT. And there's still this taboo about, yeah, HRT is different. Today we have bioidentical hormones, we have transdermal solutions, so it don't pass the liver anymore. It's given in a different way at a different age. So there is still this myth, this taboo around hormones that is having a lot of impact on how women are treated today.
Yeah. And just to pick up on that as well. So the average age of the participants were 63. Okay.
Sorry, so I thought
Yeah.
it was
So
65.
yeah, no, so like around it, essentially, that's really, I suppose, 10 years kind of older than a lot of women may, be in menopause. So naturally, the incidences of the likes of breast cancer would happen. There would be a spike, and there would be like a sliding, scale going upwards anyway. And as you said, it wasn't even, the bioidentical stuff. I would really compare it to the Andrew Wakefield, that whole controversy around the MMR, that these scare tactics were used. There were newspaper headlines, and it was just to get people to read it as well. So, these kind of lines were picked out of it as
I'm
well.
not familiar with that, Victoria. Could you share more
Yeah.
about that?
Okay, so back in, I think around, let me think, late 90s, early 2000s, probably early 2000s, there was a UK doctor called Andrew Wakefield, and he said that getting the MMR vaccine for measles, mumps, and rubella caused autism. And I remember this because I had small children around that time as well. And I remember being so frightened going and getting them the MMR. And, people were not getting the MMR and for their children. And then they were saying, oh, let's break them up into multiple different vaccines. And, it really caused, I think, some deaths and like some children to unnecessarily have, measles, mumps, or rubella as well, all from, again, a very flawed study that was found to have actual no basis in reality as well. So this is where, the evidence-based studies come in. It's, keeping everything in facts and data don't lie. And this is what we
Yeah.
should be relying on.
Yeah, exactly. And to make an informed decision. I think that
Yeah, whether
that's
it's
just
right
so
for you.
important to not, yeah, what
Nobody's
works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nobody's pushing HRT. In fact, my cousin, she's my age, she has breast cancer at the moment and it's estrogen positive, so she can't take HRT. So like women need support around the holistic, it has to be holistic. And really that's what I've strived to make the menopause as holistic as possible. That you can have that support, that it's not just about trying to say, oh, you have to go on HRT. You don't. You can do whatever you want to do and advocate for yourself and just try and just live the best, healthiest life that you can.
And how does that work then also with your physician? So do they spend time, I think, with the patients so to Victoria's point, do they also look at alternatives, I guess, for both of the systems? So it's not just, I think it's important to know that from both of the clinics that you're working with and the physicians that you're working with, it's not that people are like pushing HRT. I think it's all looking at that as an option, but alternatives as well. Is there time for those kinds of conversations?
Yeah. So an important thing to know is that your first intake takes half an hour. So that already gives plenty of opportunity to discuss your current situations, what you're looking for, to inform women. So that is an important first step. Secondly, is that as we have a digital platform, women that register on our platform, that is for free. But once you book a consultation, you get the ability to fill in already a lot of information yourself about your lifestyle, about your cycle, about what is the current medication you're taking. So the whole intake is already done partially by the woman who registers all the information. And then that half hour is really to discuss what is there, what are you looking for, why would you look into this, what is an alternative. So that is one thing. And all our doctors are specialized or are trained to offer both HRT if a woman wants that, or if the doctor thinks that that is probably the best way to go forward, or also look at lifestyle options. Many women, it's complementary. It's not like, or you get this or you get that. No, no, no. You need a good lifestyle to also benefit from HRT in the best possible way. But sometimes HRT is not an option, or women just choose to not go for HRT, and then it's about lifestyle. It's about healthy nutrition. It's about sleep hygiene. It's about reducing stress. It's about looking at several other options, and so both are often combined.
Yeah. And I think what's so fantastic about what both of you are offering is actually time to reflect. That you take the time and you're inputting information about yourself. You're reflecting on what's happening in my body right now because we rush around and everything is so fast paced. And Victoria, I think too with the MenoPal is that it's also you're entering in information, right? You're answering questions
Yeah, you can
and
do all
spending
of
the time to
yeah.
reflect. And I think that that's such an important thing is to take that time.
Yeah. I suppose with us, yes, there's the user input about your symptoms, about your mood, your diet, exercise, all of that. But actually, you can just track with your wearables as well. So you can track your data from your, your Aura Ring or your Apple Watch or your Garmin, so that you're getting your sleep data, you're getting all of those kind of, if your heart is kind of, if you're having like a hot flush or you're having a panic attack or something like that as well. It's that kind of really strong biodata coming in as well. So you can get the full picture. And then we look at triggers as well, because it's really important to see what are the triggers. Like you say, oh God, I wake up every Saturday morning with such a bad headache. Well, if you've had a bottle of wine the night before, you're going to wake up with a headache. But if you haven't done, and you're still getting the headache, there's something going on. Or you might say, I had 6 espressos today. Now I have a headache. So I just think there's a really important part of this that we haven't really touched on, which is, I suppose, the mental health aspect of it.
Absolutely.
It's just such a huge, you could nearly do a whole separate podcast, but I really wanted to, just touch on it. Six during the time, okay, we go from the age of 45 to 54. There's a 6% increase in the suicide rate for women. Okay, and that is directly connected to our hormones fluctuating. You hear of women, oh, she just went off to the shop. She was fine. She just went on a run. Where's she gone? And then she's just gone. And she seemed fine, but underneath it all, she wasn't. So we need to open up this conversation more. And it's okay not to be okay. And for women to talk about this. Because I found that it was when I spoke to people about me really heavily bleeding or feeling absolutely crap or having a rager at my family, other women were like, yeah, I absolutely can completely, relate to that as well. So I think we need to be having more conversations about the mental health impact of going through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that is so true. And that's why we're here today. I mean, that's why we're having these conversations. That's why I think it's also so important to try and reach also a younger um, audience because they're not there yet and that may be parked and you think, oh, I've got a long time before that happens. But this awareness, I think all of us have hit that perimenopause and menopause stage. And although we're in an industry and we're quite educated on this topic, we still, I, I I didn't do the right thing. I didn't, I went to my GP, gave me also some really wild, things to do that weren't very helpful. And I think to make that path to information easier is so important. And that's why it's so crucial that we talk about this and we have these conversations at the dinner table and we have our daughters and goddaughters and friends and hear about this so they're aware that it's
Like,
coming.
yeah,
And
people didn't talk about periods years ago. You couldn't say the word, period when we were young. And now, like my daughters, it's no big deal. Say to their dad, oh,
yeah,
get some pads, get some tampons, whatever. And it's just not a big deal. So I feel
yeah,
that moment is coming now for
yeah,
menopause, perimenopause, that it's okay to talk about it. I often describe it as reverse puberty, that during puberty, your hormones are coming into your body, and then during perimenopause, they're leaving your body. So we also get
yeah,
mood swings and the spots and the hair in places that we don't expect. So, it's two bookends of a woman's life. We still live after it, but
yeah,
it is something
exactly.
that we continue to go through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a stage. It's one of the many stages that we're in our lives, and again, if we can help people be more aware, and to your point, Victoria, about the mental health side of things, if you're younger and you move into this phase and you are aware, then you can go potentially and ask for help because you realize that it has it does have something to do with your hormonal level.
It's
Yeah.
totally generational. So we're Gen X. We are the generation that just put up and shut up. We're like, okay, yeah, we'll just do what we're told. Actually, now that millennials are coming into perimenopause, these are like women who were born in the 1980s. Like, to me, the 80s was 20 years ago. But actually, these are women in their 40s now. Generationally, they have grown up using apps. They've grown up advocating for themselves, speaking out. This is why there is this cultural change and cultural shift that we have to embrace and go with and build the solutions around. Because again, we are the change makers. If we don't do it, who are going to do it? Men?
Yeah, we have to be talking about it, that's right. And yay that you ladies are out there making change and offering solutions to so many women. I'm so grateful, that you're doing that, and who knows, maybe the 2 of you will find a way to collaborate because that's also a fantastic thing. The
In
more
my
we do
mind,
that,
there
the
is already
stronger
this.
we are.
Yeah, in my mind, there's already this little radar like, oh, this would be nice to integrate in human. This
Absolutely.
so
Any clinics out there, come to us. We'll digitalize you completely and help you to reach more women and help more women be able to be reached by you as well. So it's collaboration. And again, Sabina, thanks for having us today and thanks for bringing us together, because the more women work together and collaborate, the better the world is going to be.
Exactly. And the more questions we ask and the more comfortable we are asking questions and discussing, the further we'll get. So thank you so much, yeah, for the very honest, and thank you for sharing your personal stories. That's not always easy to do, but again, I'm a big advocate for sharing the stories because I think people relate and find themselves in other stories, and I think that that definitely will help the listeners. And hopefully, we've been able to uncover a bit of a mystery around menopause. And thanks for your tools and your systems and the work that you're doing. And maybe, the future is going to rewrite the way that they deal with perimenopause and menopause. So let's hope that they do and some of these myths get busted. And if there's and if people want to find you, where can they do that? Can you share your any of your information, websites, LinkedIn? Where can people reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find us at themenopal.com, or if you want to reach out to me directly on LinkedIn, I'm Victoria Finlay.
so for us, it's Yuma Health, and Yuma is UMA Health in English .be, because we're based in Belgium. And my name is Anne Broché. I'm you can find me on LinkedIn as well. So feel free to reach out and have a discussion.
Thanks so much for what you all are doing. It was a
Thank
pleasure
you.
having you on the call
Thanks,
today.
Sabina.